Well. This is weird. It's daytime. Daytime painting and doing stuff. So here we are. I have the day off. I have the week off, in fact. So I'm going to try to get a lot done on this diorama. So much to do. So I primed the base of this thing. I found out the hard way that it takes overnight for the glue that goes between the foam to actually set. If you hear screaming in the background, that's my children being tortured. Such as daytime life. But I've got this little mausoleum thing. I'll be working a little bit on that, sawing things up. I've got the absolute base. I've got this hill, which is still not glued in. I'm going to keep it separate for now. Got a bunch of Necrons, a bunch of props. I have more props, more little plants and things. So what I'm going to do to start is do some color testing in terms of, God, the shelf has no space on it. I love it. It's all filling up. Do some color testing, get a ground color going here. And a decent chunk of this will be covered in grass and other things, but the baseline is going to be something brown. So I have a huge brush. Yeah, the gentle sound of screaming in the background. Good stuff. And I'm just going to get started with that. This is going to be a little pond, and because it's going to be under some clear sheen stuff. Oh, Dane, what happened? And I'm glad that you're okay. Just gonna dip in with this stuff. This is snakebite leather. The prime that I did on this, I hit it with black first, and then I hit it with white after, so that it wouldn't be just pure black. I'd get some amount of variance on it. Oh my God, so much paint being used. I love it. And decent chunks of this whole flat space will be, I'm going to squish them in a little bit to give them some more texture, but also they'll get some basing material as well. So I kind of like that. That's working. So I'm going to do this pretty much all over as just a baseline brown. B12. There you go. That will do it. I have heard of that before. And the nice thing is that's relatively easily fixed. One of my most important old man things that I do. I mean, it's easily fixed unless it's a sign of something else, but one of the old man things I do is eat a multivitamin every day at this point, which I never did at any other point in my life. Eventually my doctor was like, yep, your physiology changes over time. Might as well get that stuff in your system. Man, my window has light coming through it. This is amazing. I should look at that. I'm gonna have to find a way to not have this be too. Wow, this is like painting houses. I love it. So obviously it's super dark in this pond because it's in there really thick, and that's fine. There's a nice dark bottom there. Then everywhere else, I'm gonna really spread it out. B12. I don't remember what foods you get that out of off the top of my head. That's the other thing about going crazy with multivitamins is forget what foods have actual vitamins in them because you pretty much presume you're covered. I think. Yeah, yep, exactly. Definitely manageable. What? Yeah. bunch of greens. Injection. Get some multis in you and square you right up. My wife is diligently making my children lunch. If you hear people complaining, it's because toddlers tend to give you very low Yelp reviews when they're waiting for you to do something. There's something very therapeutic about just dipping a massive brush into the tiny little pot. You just sort of sit back and do this. Don't have to stare blankly. Watch my eyes fog over like I do with tiny models. Oh, that's good stuff. I'm just moving this through. And so you can see, you know, with the black coat underneath and then just like a faraway spritz of wraith bone. The entire thing isn't just a matte color as a baseline. So you get a little bit of variance, like it's a little lighter over here. And that's good. It'll make my life a lot easier. Make things less repetitive when I actually get into doing some detail work. If you can believe it, I feel really good. It's funny you say that because your body does tell you when it needs something, sometimes by passing out. And then it definitely, like, your body digests things pretty fast. Some things. And when you're deficient, you get this sort of sense of relief there. I'm not actually surprised at all. Especially with things like vitamins from plants. Like, well, I shouldn't even say that. That's not true. Like when your blood sugar is like really low and then you eat a piece of bread, your body's like, oh man, that was amazing. But definitely with vitamins and minerals, it can be like from something you don't eat that often. You're just like, wow, my body was missing some component of that. Yeah. It's true. Well, I mean, your body telling you that was pretty much the tank was empty on a vitamin, so you get the sort of rush job information on it. Oh, this is good stuff. Let me scooch this over so it's still a little visible. This is like the most paint I have ever used on a project already. So you got to use special glue on this stuff, but from what I've heard, you can be a little bit more liberal with different types of glue once it's been primed and painted a bit. You'll find that out the hard way. But I don't think I'm going to use hodge-podge on trying to attach any of my props over the paint. And we'll find out. Hopefully I don't melt this whole thing. If I do, I'll figure something out. But last night, in a pretty brief stream, just because I sort of ran myself into a corner, I did figure out that heat was the way to just absolutely smush stuff down like a little pond. That was cool. Got to pull the lighter out, which is always fun. Just do some long strokes here just to spread things out. As you can see, like, it is not destitutely all the same color. I'm going to spread some of the stuff around that's in here. This is where painting houses finally pays off. All right, and I will do the same. I should find a nice, convenient place to put this guy for a minute. I will do the same with this. And how I got that, I mean, it's not great edge, but I basically just used a heat cutter, a wire cutter thing. Just takes 2C batteries. I ordered a slightly better one. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we are talking. So I have the Army Painter super cheapo model, and I have to say, like, you get what you pay for, which is not a bad thing. As far as like a very quick solution that was not expensive at all. And you have to remember what it's built for, but and you have to remember that I'm totally unskilled. But the thing is cheap, um, which is a good and a bad thing. It's a little unwieldy to use on bigger chunks, but like I should look up what it costs. It costs almost nothing, so I have no bad feels about it. No bad feels whatsoever. But I did decide to order a slightly improved version. One, because some of the slightly more, I think it was like $30, so it's not crazy. Has this big old wire hoop, and then you can pull that whole end off and put like probes on it. So as far as doing that whole chunk that I did with the pond, I don't have to sit here with a lighter. Yeah, everybody is waiting on lunch, and that child is just a drama queen. But that's basically why I stream at night. The show must go on in this household. But I spent the last couple days facing the full brunt of that weepy barrage. But not unlike our cats, a tiny human just has her family trained. She makes her demands, we comply. Stir trader. Yeah, she's tough to tell with her. My two littlest children, I do think about these things all the time, by the way. That one that's screaming in the background now, she's just a little bit over 1 year old. She is definitely a child of chaos. Her slightly older sister at like 2.5 is absolutely order, loyalist. The older one, if things aren't laid out in exactly the right way, I shouldn't even say that. She's not like, she doesn't care how things are laid out, but she remembers the order of operations of things a lot. She's awesome, but she does not put up with a bunch of waiting around. So the thing is, it's because she's the tiny one. She's been trying to like catch up to her sister in all things since go. And so she's just very impatient. Like she just started walking maybe about a month ago. But she's wanted to walk since like forever. I've been totally like impatient about it. Just wants to get up and play, have a good time. She's a total sweetheart. But right now she's stuck in a pack and play and just watching my wife make lunch. And she's got pipes on her. Like she can scream like that perpetually. So once again, you can see that by having a little bit of white in the primer coat, this whole thing doesn't end up looking the exact same, like matte finish kind of dealy. Where the heck am I going to hide this? I keep saying I need a bigger space, and I am not joking. So I am going to glue it to the base. The thing I got to figure out is that I've got to tie it together. That edge, it's got to come together some way. And I have like a decent amount of basing material that I'll use. And I gotta make sure that I keep this snake bite leather like reasonably close at hand. And I'm wondering if I want to fill in some of the cracks and stuff with it or not. And then let me just pull this guy out. It dries relatively quickly, but I'm wondering if I want to like hit the seam of this with some basing material. I'm definitely going to use it for the burial plots, which will just have a mound of basing material on it, so it looks like churned up dirt. Spread this stuff around a little bit. Otherwise it will never dry. So yeah, I've not 100% sure exactly what I'm going to do about that. I'm going to need a paper towel. With this stuff in tow, I think I can switch over, probably painting a few more fiddly bits. Just a little extra there. Get that to fill in a little bit. Seeing a little bit of thin spots. You know what? Too thin. Feather it up all nicely. Let this dry a bit. My snake bite leather once again. So anyway, yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna take some basing material and just hit the seam of that or leave it as it is. For now, we'll just let it meditate and dry a little bit. I hit my knee on my desk like a champ. We can go to some painting. Freestyle this. Better. Get a little bit more up close and personal. All right. So I got these guys that I painted, and I just put a base of like a mixture of white and this stuff here. Hex Wraith Flame. I should start early. Shake up my Tesseract Glow. And I basically hit a bunch of them with something that will be a little bit lighter in the background than the metallic. And now, I've got to seal the deal, figure out whether or not it is Hex Wraith Flame or Tesseract Glow. So that crater is going to be filled in with water. But I can do a couple of those Necron arms, and that's a very, very good point. Thank you, Dane. That set of Necron warriors comes with enough guns. There's 10. For whatever this one is, I don't think this is I can't remember what a Gauss Flare versus a blah, blah, blah thing is, but at the moment. But I have a bunch of basically arms with guns attached. And you know what would be perfect, now that you mention it, is an arm coming out. Yeah, an arm coming out of a grave would work. These coming out of the pond absolutely, absolutely works. So I'm not going to clip them up right now, not this minute, but that is a really solid idea. A few of those arms coming out of the ground, awesome. It's also, you know what? There's also bonus heads in there. So if I do it right with like a mound, I could basically get like the head just peeking out of the dirt and the arm coming out. That's a great idea. I'll do it. All right, so right here, I'm going to figure out between, I think it's probably going to be a little bit of each. I'm going to hit these spots that I lightened up with some Hex Wraith Flame first. This is a great idea, man. Like 90% of the value of doing this streaming is people just freestyling good ideas. I can absolutely have those arms and heads coming out. So this will make it greener. And then I think it'll get a pass. Tesseract Glow. That brush is too tiny for contrast paint. That's a great idea. You're hired. This brush might be a little too tiny too, but we'll find out. Or it's just too jacked up. Yeah, that thing's cooked solid. And give that guy a soak. Brushes, brushes, all the brushes. This one's pretty beat up, but it will hold enough paint on the end to get the job done. I'm being pretty liberal with this because it will soak in. Don't want to be too liberal. And the hope is Tesseract Glow over the top of it will get it a little bit of shine. Oh, that's a lot. All right, this brush is a bit heavy-handed. See if this guy corrected himself a little bit in the water. There we go. Soaked up a little bit. I'm going to test one this way. And then I'll test one with just Tesseract Glow. See which one we like. Yeah, I do have to figure out. That is an interesting idea. So one thought, and I may not keep this thing as is. One thought is that what I could have done is rather than stack it up like sandwich meat and chop it up, is that I could have just built it with 4 walls and a roof, like a building, and then I could put something inside of it. So I don't actually think this mausoleum thing is going to stick, or if I do, it'll go somewhere else. But I do think now that I've sort of suffered my way through it, I do want to actually build this proper. The nice thing about this foam, though, is you can't really tell. You can tell if I angle it this way. You can sort of just push in. You use a pencil. I do have some of these fiddly tools, and you can give it like a stonework texture on the outside. But I could do that if I built it like a house. Point being, Dane, if I do that, then it can be hollow, and it can be all primed black on the inside, and then I can have someone creeping out. Also not a bad idea. All right. Let's see how our Tesseract Glow goes. Also, I have these, I still use Q-tips as well, but I have these frou-frou foamy things, and they're actually really, really good. They're makeup, disposable makeup things. But a lot of little stuff like that that's disposable you can get like on Amazon for really cheap for a huge bulk amount of it, and they just have way more control than Q-tips for when I do grime stuff. And the Q-tips also, the cotton comes off of them. Yeah, I know, and I have sandpaper, and I could, you know, I could do that. But I think I want this to be I want it to be built like a house. Yeah, exactly. And then I'll just sand it down, carve the details in after. It'll work. I'm learning dioramas. Also, that's looking a bit better. I've still got some work to do on all the green parts of it, but it certainly looks better. I've completely just paved over any of the metal work on it, and I've got to clean that up too. But Trazen's coming out. He's looking better. All right, let's find another guy who I greened up. Yeah. All right. So this is another guy with just that base in there. And part of the show where I sip tea and just keep shaking. So the actual foam that that I bought, it comes with like 6 plates that are the size of the original, and it comes with a big sheet of sandpaper, which is nice. Already with it, and it's a good grit to get the edge going. I do like most of the Army Painter stuff that I've gotten my hands on so far. Alrighty. Let's see how this works. And I may actually grind these guys up a little bit at some point before putting them in, keep them proper Halloween spooky. Well, Tesseract glow never seems to disappoint. It certainly glows. I am starting to wonder, as I learn a little bit more about layering, if the same way as I do with like pustules and stuff, where I put a super bright yellow underneath, considering how yellow Tesseract glow is and how bright you want stuff to be, I might start undercoating with yellow on these parts. Oh my gosh, my hands are shaking. I have like no blood sugar. I haven't eaten yet today. All right, so relatively speaking, and I'm always putting Tesseract glow on. The thing we want to find out is if Tesseract glow over this darker one looks better than the one on the left. So I'll let that guy dry a little bit. I'll go back and Tesseract glow this one. I do want the little building kind of rough, but take everything I say with a grain of salt. I say I want, but I'm really not planned well for this entire thing. Wink. Wish that didn't go into the cracks like that, but it is, and I can't really stop it. Actually, I'm curious if little connections between those circles are supposed to be filled in, allegedly. Certainly be curious to see how it would look. Set that guy aside. You'd never apologize for your creative side. That's what we're here for, dude. That is exactly what we're here for. Creative side should be talking. It's the whole point of this. It is fun. My main thing is that I don't have a strong perspective yet on what I'm trying to do. But it's actually really good to be able to like talk through with someone while you're working and just talk shop about it. All right, so I am going to take a quick look, see how they handle it on the box. Well, they hit the edge a bit. See how they handle the guns. I don't know if I'm going to do it exactly like that. I don't think I will, but good to know for reference how something, not how you're supposed to do it, but how someone has chosen to do it. All right. So I think it's definitely cooler on the right one. For show. I am going to get in here and just do a little bit of cleanup. I don't think I have a choice. I think this stuff has to go into those cracks. Oh, and then I've forgotten so many times the back sides of these. Maybe I just need to use super tiny brush and get better at painting. It'd be good to get better at painting. All right, back to super tiny brush. So my skeleton army, wonderful Necrons coming out of the graves. I don't know, it might still be on this stream. Might be a little later today, but I will clip some of those arms and heads out and get those primed up. That'll be a lot of fun. That's an excellent suggestion. I don't know how to avoid getting that stuff in those cracks. I'm not sure there's a way for me as a human being to do it. And this guy's going to get colored over because we've decided with our little test here that the mixture of the two is best. Of course, I missed the backside on this guy too. After this little test, we will check out how things are drying up. So because I always put the cart before the horse, I am thinking about how I will photograph this. And part of this diorama project is for me to get better at taking photos. Because it's a thing that I can absolutely set up. I can go crazy with how much lighting I choose to do. Not in the diorama itself, but in terms of like adding mood for photography. A lot of basing skills to be learned. So there. All right, more tiny props. What did I use to green up? Yeah, it was Militarum green. I have some more small plants, and I think it is time to address that guy. Speaking of creative side, Dane, I want you to think about what colors I'm going to use on this dude. I'm going to let you pick the color scheme. I'll be back in 1 second. I'm just going to go over here and grab my other little plants. Bowl of greens, full of B12. All right. I'm not really sure what I'm going to do with all these mushrooms, how I'm going to handle it. But maybe, you know what? I probably should have primed them in white. Probably should have. That would have made sense. Oh, that's a good question. Do. I do think it's better. The challenge is that the first photo has an almost entirely white background. The other one's a bit darker behind it. But yeah, I think it is better. And that's about as far as I go too. I don't really go too nuts with my glow effects. Everything is a challenge to try to get things looking. I struggle with bright. I just do. Struggle with bright colors. All right, so these mushrooms, I have no idea why I primed them in green. Well, no, I do. It's because there's a mix. That's why I did. Everything's so tiny. I threw everything in the same bucket because I'm a bum. So there are tiny little sprouty plants, in some cases with the mushroom attached, and then there are a bunch of mushrooms that I have. And so I got to do these separately. These guys I just need to hit with militarum green. And eventually I'll dry brush them with a little bit of something. I'm just going to drop them in here. I'm not going to grime them, but that way they won't get lost. And I'll just sort of dab paint them. They're going to get a lot of militarum green on them, and they can just sort of roll around there and be happy for a bit. And then I can pull them out and dry brush them with something a little lighter, like not Nurgle's Rot. Plague Bear Flesh? Plague Bear. Nurgling Green. That's right. Alright, well, I guess I'm acquiescing to the fact that my hand's going to be dirty again today. I could wear latex gloves, but I'm not going to. Oh, buddy. Everybody's a critic. Everybody's a critic. I could use tweezers. That might be smart. That might be really smart. I own tweezers. Yeah, I've been watching a lot of short little clips of people doing glows, and I think the thing is, like, I need to build more patience and be willing to, like, do more steps. I don't need to, but I think I want to. Oh, buddy. Everybody's PO'd. That was my day for a few. Actually, it's that way pretty much every night around dinner. I make dinner, and man, everybody just brings the beef. Good little people. With very low Yelp reviews. Alright, get you nice and greeny. It's going to be awesome when these things are totally fused to the bottom of this thing when I try to get them out later, but that's the way life goes. Just try to get every little angle of these absolutely annoying plants. They're beautiful. I love them. But as far as painting them, it's a little bit of a pain. Dry brushing them should be, well, that'll be easier once this stuff dries on here. Alright, that's good. Let's just be excessive. Okay, so the thing is, though, with this guy, probably not clear. His trousers are actually Space Marine-y like. Actually, armor on the bottom half. He's basically just been top melted. You can see on the back, like he's got the boots and whatever. So I should I'm going to do these as armor. What I'm talking about here is maybe a color scheme that alludes to. I'm not going to do him as an Ultramarine. I've already beaten up the Ultramarines enough with my Typhus model. But I should think of some faction that makes sense, especially because it'll also be practice with a different color scheme. Yeah, his trousers are power armor-ish. Ish enough for me to get away with it. And if I add enough detail to it. It should pop. The nice thing about working in a little bowl like this is you can just tamp some up from the bottom and keep spreading it around, roll things around. I actually primed these guys in a metal bowl, just like shook it around a bit. I need a better way to prep super small bits like this. I really don't. I mean, I guess you could just take the tiniest little pieces of sticky stuff and tack them all down, but a lot of these aren't like flat bottomed. It's hard to tell. So I'm just rolling things around here, just trying to get a decent coat on everything, make sure they don't stick together. Good job, brush. Ye old base brush from Citadel, the old champ. All right, and I think what I'm going to do for these mushrooms is just dry brush the daylights out of them with something neutral. Could do Dawnstone. That'd be gray. Yeah, I'm just going to dry brush them in white. That way they'll have a little bit of highlight to them. A little rampant piece of grass. A little bit of highlight to them. And then whatever crazy colors I choose to do on them should shine through. I think those will, yeah, if I dry brush them white, I can pretty much work mostly with like a dab of wash here and there. You in good shape? You are. Just dampen this guy a little bit. That's one thing I swear by now. I don't dunk the whole thing anymore. But my dry brush, I just give it a little bit of water. Basically, I just dab it off with my paper towel and just. I've found that works a lot better. All right, white it is. Good day to have paint-covered hands. And this can be sort of heavy-handed. Ooh. I don't know that I have Rhinox, but I can probably mix something close to it. Red it is. Yeah, that's good. That's a good call. Red will look good in here. Mushroom Palooza. Yeah, at least these are a little bit of a green background, which would be good. Going with washes and stuff. Just spinneroonie that in there. And I can just pull out all my colorful washes on these guys and just give them like a drop here and there. A little bit of detail work on them. Mushrooms, mushrooms, all the mushrooms. Some of these are nice and drippy. So the mushrooms are probably, and it's neat because I've got the pond feature, and that'll probably have a lot of the tall grass around it. it gets like one sort of set of props. Let's get this rampant thread out of there. And then the mushrooms probably make sense to do maybe around the little mausoleum thingy. I could still spread a few around elsewhere, but like I'm thinking about different zones in the actual diorama so that there's a little bit of color difference. And then more towards the back and right side, I can use a little bit more of the trees, sort of a border, and that way it's not just a buckshot crawled out of a grave. Yeah, that way it's not just a buckshot of different props and different colors. So up by the mausoleum-y thing, it'll be a little bit more motley because of the mushrooms. And then around the pond, there'll be greenery with a splash of red from our unfortunate space marine who decided to join the crew of this diorama. I'm actually digging this. This works. I'm realizing this entire week my fingers are just going to be covered in paint. And that's not a lament. I'm psyched. Be able to paint during the day is awesome. Find a way to retire and just do this all day. Yeah, getting in the Halloween spirit. The other thing I got to do this afternoon / evening, it's super rainy out. It's been rainy out the last couple days. And my family's been very late in getting our Halloween stuff up outside. It's still not up. Everything's still in my attic. So later this afternoon, I got to get everything out of the attic and just be like prepped to deploy stuff tomorrow early. So our house, at least outside, looks a little bit spooky. It's been a busy year and a busy couple weeks. My wife's had a lot to do, and anytime right before I take vacation at work, there's a lot of stuff for me to sort out. Yeah, but we do have piles of candy to give out. We do have a very Halloweeny neighborhood. Lots of kids that get driven in. So I gotta do some deco outside. I generally just use like a bin, a large bin, but I have one of those fog makers that is ultrasonic. It just goes underwater and basically just ultrasonically vibrates like crazy. It makes a cloud of mist. And so as we're talking about this skeleton sort of coming out of the pond here, very much that type of situation. I have a big plastic skeleton and I have him sitting in there with some other little props. Got some ghosts, not ghosts, like skeletal wraith things that hang from trees. I've got some tombstones. I do have to make tombstones for this graveyard. Maybe I can make little placards. I should make some tombstones. They're like one of the most iconic Halloween thingies of all time. But anyway, as art imitates life, imitates art, I have a lot of Halloween stuff to do in very little time. But it's fun work. All right, so these guys are looking pretty good. Mad props. I got all kinds of props. These will be fun to put down. So tiny. So tiny. Yeah, I think these guys will be just fine with a couple drops of wash on them. Just get like a little bit of burst of color. This is so weird. Normally, at one point in the stream, I'm like, man, how much should I keep going? Because I'm just going to be tired in the morning when I have to go to work. I don't have to go to work. got your address. I will send you a bunch of stuff. That's the other thing I got to do is go to the post office sometime this week. Put a Dane package together. All right, now that thing is soaked, I have 2 more little pieces of grass that I didn't see because my eyes are old. We're gonna militarum green them up as well. And they can just sit in here and dry. Where my tweezers at? So part of the benefit of sort of flying by the seat of my pants when I do this is it makes a lot of the places where I would do something differently or a better job next time, makes them very poignant. Like, today is a really great day to just be doing like straight up day labor, getting all this stuff together. In reality, the perfect thing to do would be when I get all of these little props in little baggies. It's all good, man. I love our cross the ocean, cross the pond friendship. And I'm happy I'm not keeping you up late right now. It's your business. But, you know, getting all of these little props and just knocking out the primer and prep work on them and then rebagging them up, that's the way to go. And you know, people talk about their pile of shame, but I think it's actually fine to pile some stuff up because you're later going to do it in one full batch. Like, if I had the time, grabbing all of these greens, getting them all primed up, all just dipped in the same base coat that I'm going to use. Like, I could have literally just thinned out some of this militarum green, been ready, just squeegee it, some of it in there. Then you start knocking out a bunch of stuff. Like this guy I primed by himself. I have 3 of them. Like, I should have probably done more. But every time I go through one of those steps, it highlights for me how to get more organized. All right, so we said this guy was getting red, right? Are we talking super red? I'll give me some red. Yeah, no doubt, no doubt. All right. We got red paints. I have Mephiston red, which is super red. I have Sigvold burgundy, which if I remember correct is almost like purplish red. Got Berserker Bloodshade. And I have Galverback red. I think I'm going to go super red. And then I might use some of this for some highlights. I don't think I'm going to use Sigvold burgundy, but I think I might shade it in Berserker Bloodshade. So now, let's see which brush is healthiest in this moment. That's not a brush. Thin this guy up a little bit. Mr. Skeleton Man. There's a balloon floating around in my front yard. This is so weird. I can see outside. It's not nighttime. It's amazing. Should give this guy a little shake. This guy will be creeping out the pond. Oh, but Dane, I only have so many reds. Coat it in a bright silver, then use Blood Angel's red contrast. Oof. I do have contrast medium. All right, undercoated in a silver. Contrast. All right. Let's see what I can work with. Let's see what I can work with. All right. I'm going to do an undercoat in silver. We'll see how that goes. Get some water on the palette here. Get some of this glop going. That's shiny. Shiny, shiny. So what I'm going to try to do is mimic contrast medium. I got to remember that my camera's out in front from when it's zoomed out. I have contrast medium, so I could do a mix. I'm gonna give that a shot. Try to turn regular paint to a contrast paint a little bit. Just hanging. This is weird. It's so weird for me to paint things that are super smooth. Very foreign to me, and I do have to get all under these feet. This guy's not standing up. And just get a little in there. Oh man, what a death this guy hit. Well, the neat thing is I can go over this guy as many times as I need, and I have never actually done like a color contrast over silver. So you have posited to me an interesting experiment, which is what I'm all about. All right, so this guy does need to dry for a few minutes. I'll leave him somewhat hanging upside down. That's prepped in. Did I grab my stuff? Let's see here. What else? I could get, need something to mix in. Check up here. Did I grab that thing? All right. Back in business. Scooch everybody out of the way. This has become such an absolute craft space of chaos. One of these. Out a bit. That can sit over there. The question is, should I think I need to do the base of this with something. I don't know that it needs to be textural, but I do think I need to do the very simplest amount of greenery in the bottom of this. Get that glued in. That all tuned in. Those are black trees. Or at least I need to figure it out. So my dude is going to be like facing the camera this way. I'm not going to place him back in there because he's got silver paint on him. But I got to get some amount of this plants in here. Yeah, I think I'm gonna do that. But you got to bear in mind, I do have contrast medium, so I can try to like hand mix a contrast paint. Got to glue these things in, and then get the very lowest amount of liquid for the bottom. I think that's a good step to do right now, because that needs to dry, and then I need to do it again. This is way deeper than 3 millimeters. So here's the question. How do I get these guys to stick? I could push things in a bit. I'm pretty sure I can't use crazy glue, or I shouldn't. I said I might, but I don't think I'm gonna. I think that's terrifying enough. That guy has a nice little divot that I can utilize. What I should probably do is do that everywhere. Find places where there's a natural divot and just put someone in there where he can sort of stand up. Man, this is a hoot. That's a lot of work, but man, this is pretty cool stuff. One there. Yeah, that'll fit. Just glop in some glue. And your boy will eventually sit like that. I should find some smaller bits. I also tend to apologize too much. You certainly do, and that's fine. You just do your thing, man. You can apologize. I could say no apology. We could do that 60,000 times till the stars burn out of the sky and still have a fun time doing it. I like suggestions. That guy could just boop, sit right next to it. Yeah, so most of this kind of plant work, this grass, is going to be right around here. And then elsewhere, I'll use a bunch of those sticky little tufts that are different textures, but this is definitely like swampy grass. All right, tweezers out. Tweezers out, if I can find them. I lose everything constantly. The struggle is real. There we are. Clear and matte. Do I want to muddy this up right around here? I don't think I'm going to. Don't think I will. I am going to sit back and ponder. You should absolutely suggest things. I love, one of the best parts of streaming is having people suggest stuff, man. I am here to learn and have fun while I do it. All right, I should probably mix up some glop to go in there. And I mean glop. So what I need to do, all right, that's not completely dry, but it's dry enough to be safe. Is I need to pull all these little plants out. Put them somewhere safe. Over here. Now I need to use this bowl for alchemy. Get our first pass. Swamp goop. Make sure that there's no other plants that I want to toss in the mix. Oh, there is one more. Get him in there. Nice tall thin guy. Dollop of glue. Get this thing to close up. Maybe I should turn it the correct way. Front left of the pond. Ooh, well, I think this guy's coming here. So I'm putting it there because I know that I'm going to take at least a few camera shots. It's probably going to be more like this, with the mausoleum in the background, like that. And then I sort of get him in profile for whatever feature I'm going to have over there. The other thing to keep in mind, I may be sitting here for a while. Or I can just divot this thing. Oof. Hands free, hands free. Is this first layer, you know what? I'm going to set you aside for now. And I'm going to try to make a little divot there that you can sit in, get comfy. Oh man. Should I have just green stuffed these things in ahead of time? Who knows? All right. Now obviously I have to be super careful. But what I'm putting in here for the water is just going to be the first layer. And so I can actually, even though they'll be floating up a little bit, you'll never see it. I just want to get the bottom of this thing flat. In fact, if I was smart, I would have done it before these, because these all have flat bases. Another thing I could have learned from. In fact, I could just pull them out right now, but I'm not gonna. I'm gonna live with what I've done. Find some goop. Put that goop. Cleaned everything up, and then probably moved it somewhere that I don't recognize. Ah, here it is. Here it is. I got that stuff. And the base of this is going to be, I feel better after that B12 meal. I'm sure you do. Scare this guy out. He's coming up soon. I'm going to mix some of this diorama effect stuff with some of Dane's favorite goopy stuff. That's dark streaking grime. I need a different grime. I'm going to use a little bit of grime mixed in, and then I'll pour that out in here. And I'm not going to use a lot of grime. I don't need a lot of it. But I don't want the water to just be clear. I want it to be a little obscured. The risk of working on top of my piece. Yes, the grime is back. Working with grime, doing crimes. I'm actually going to have a little bit, a dab of my brush water, which is all kind of just browny right now. There we go. So that grime bits are just going to kind of float around in there, doing their thing. I'm just going to give it a rough mix. As you can see, that stuff is just going to kind of hold together on its own. Pray for me. Just drip a little over here. That's all going in. All right, that has me thinking. You can see there's a little bit of greeniness to it. Ooh, don't bump the thing. Gently. Gently. I should have thought this out before doing it, but that's not really my jam. Man, now I really hope that that white stuff dries properly. It does dry clear. We'll find out. What I'm thinking is I can actually do this. Wonder what happens if I just tap some in. That doesn't work at all. You go straight to the trash. No, so that's just the first layer. So I need this to dry first because it's just going to be the bottom. It flattens everything out, and then because it's got that green floating in it, it sort of breaks things up, but that'll dry relatively clear. That's just the bottom layer. Then the marine goes in, and then I put the rest of the stuff on top. But I should, in theory, in fact, I can kind of enforce it. I should be able to get almost like a little bit of parallaxing going. Throw a few more drops of this in there. And then what was I going to do? So with that green slop floating in there, I need something I can just dip through here. Bottom layer won't just look purely clear. It'll have a little bit of mess going on. Which obviously paints me into a corner. But you can see it looks pretty swampy and murky now. Now what I'm going to try to do, you know what, I'm just going to scooch everything back nice and gently. And then we'll work on our marine, and then let him dry, and then he can go in there into the pond. Oh. A little space for the camera. And everything should work out. All right. It's all moving around in there. It's all moving. It's so weird. Like while it's drying, it's just like swimming around. I have a very sinking feeling that that white stuff down there is going to stay white because I've now covered it up. It's no longer drying in the air. That's a mistake. In fact, I don't even think I really needed it, but that's life. I will figure out a way to mask it later underneath. What'll probably be is just a bunch of grime around each one of those that I'll just paint in at the end. Then you'll never see that stuff at the bottom. All right, so our marine needs some work. Grab some contrast medium. I will glop some up. Get some on my wet palette. A healthy amount of it. Close that up. Grab some old Mephiston red. Scariest paint in the business. I'm guessing this will probably need more contrast medium. Oh, danger. Where are my tweezers? Yeah, this is why I need more space. There we go. No biggie. Just ended up pulling a little bit of that red stuff accidentally into the pond. All right, red. Oh, that's pretty thick. Water it down a little more. Now it's kind of thin, but it is what it is. And it may need 2 coats. That we knew. There we go. Oh my gosh, that's going to add so much brightness to this thing. It's going to stand out nicely. Into all those little bits. It'll definitely need 2, but the silver's showing through, which is good. All the crotch bits. All right, that is past number 1. Sit there and do a sort of headstand up against your Mephiston red. I'm very swiftly painting myself into a corner. Ooh. Oof. Oof. A little wash. See, that got red on there because I was painting so fast. Getting sloppy. Yeah, I should have precluded this whole thing with a convenient place to dry this. But I do like how the water looks. It's significantly murky. Significantly murky. It's very, very murky. Stuff sort of just floating through in the abyss. I have no idea how long it takes for this stuff to dry. No idea. But I can sort of break it up a little bit, and it looks like pond scum, which is perfect. I do have to solve for all that white glue underneath it. Yeah. Right into the danger zone. What I'll do with those pants is I'll hit them with another layer of red, and then I'll do a little bit of detail work on them. Just hit the edges with something shiny. Feeling a bit too happy for some reason. Maybe it's because your body has enough vitamins to function properly. Maybe it's that. I'm glad you're feeling better. I think that is no small part of it. And also just in general, like not feeling well and then feeling better just brings your spirits up. Health matters. So I'm going to give this first coat just a couple minutes on this merino. Yeah. He does need a little bit. Leave him hanging upside down too. How long does this pond water take to dry? Because it is sweet. This stuff is awesome. Hmm. Doesn't say how long it takes to dry, but it might be a while. Oh, it's so murky. It's getting murkier while it's like setting. So neat. Yeah, exactly. Nothing wrong with feeling happy. I mean, it is at least this one little section, this one little happy place with the pond is starting to look diorama-like. I do have other prep to do. This guy is going to have to sit here and dry. I may be able to drop the skelly in there, but I probably shouldn't because then his paint's probably going to leak out a bit. Yeah, no, he definitely needs another coat. He definitely does. Just giving it just a couple minutes for that first one to set in a little bit. But yeah, this is basically, I mean, Mephiston red is about as red as things get. It's like Ronald McDonald red. And there's a dab of water in it, and then contrast medium, and it seems to work. Dab dab. Get some of those bits. Well, I think this is the first time I've actually used contrast medium for what it's probably for. At least close to it. I mean, I'm pleased with that. Little dabs in there. That edge. There we go. Oh, don't forget the bottoms of the feet. Underneath there. And then I can leave them sitting upside down again. Calisthenics. All right. I think, for safety's sake, I need to call it for a while. Let this settle just a bit, even if it's just enough so that I can pick it up and let it sit somewhere else to settle down. But as far as preview for next time, which may very well just be in a few hours, who knows, I have trees that I've already pre-smushed in once. So get some big trees, one in the probably a couple in the foreground, just so that you can get some decent camera shots with like the tree there. Let me show you, like tree in the foreground, background behind it. Big trees, basically, mostly probably a couple up here, one there. I should be able to start putting in a bunch of the tiny props like mushrooms and things. I could paint a bunch of those. Right now, I just feel horribly unsafe with how wet that is. It is starting to seal. Yeah, that water looks like stagnant. Let's see if I can. I'm not gonna mess around. Really not. I'm not gonna mess with my cameras. I'm not gonna have my camera fall in my diorama when I'm at the point of victory. But I'm gonna peace out for a little bit. I'm gonna let this set a little bit more so I can put it somewhere. I'm gonna do a bunch more prop work in the next session. I will probably off camera because this guy will be drier sooner than later. I'll probably finish this guy up just to do some metallic edging around some bits, work on the skeleton a little bit. I may give him some ultra greeny stuff to make him look like he's been plasma melted. We'll see about that. But when I come back next time, I'll be able to plop a bunch of stuff in here, and then near the end of it, put a second coat, a second layer of this pond murk. Yeah, I'm very pleased with that water, and this is a nice test for basing my plague marines, because now that this murky water thing is solved, I can do that a bunch. It's tough to see, but Goff's actually got a little Goff Rocker's got a little pond in there. That was my first test of this stuff. So anywho, I'm gonna peace out for a bit, let things settle, and then once again at a very odd schedule because I have the week off, I'll be back on at some point and we'll keep on pushing. Thanks a bunch, Dane. Glad you're feeling better. Eat some more greens. We'll chat soon. Bye-bye.